Hi, I'm Stuart. Welcome to my YouTube channel, or welcome back. Thanks for viewing my video. In this video I give my reading map for the week of 1/24/2026. I completed one book this week, so I talk briefly about that book. I read part of another book, so I talk briefly about that book. I show books that I got at a recent library haul. I talk about my reading plans for the upcoming week and a little longer. I talk about the videos I released. I talk about the crochet projects I worked on. I talk about the video games I'm playing. I talk about the music I listen to. And I talk about some other things going on in my life too. The book I completed was Mate by Ali Hazelwood. This book is the sequel to Bride, which was my favorite book of 2025. This book stars two supporting characters from Bride, and the two main characters from Bride are supporting characters in this book. It's basically about the developing relationship between a alpha of one of the were packs and a half-human, half-were. I will hopefully soon do a separate review video for this book, but just say that I liked it, I think even a little more than Bride. It'll definitely be a 5-star book for me. I completed Mate early in the week. I spent most of the week reading Authority by Jeff Vandermeer. This is his second book in the Southern Reach trilogy. This book is a little different than I expected. I expected, like the first book, which was Annihilation, that this book would be mainly about another expedition into Area X, but it's not. It's actually about the Southern Reach, which is the group that monitors Area X. The story is told in the third person by Control, not his real name. His real name is John Rodriguez, but he wants to be called Control. He is assigned as the director to Area X. The previous director was a member of the previous expedition who went missing. He is kind of struggling in his career. Although the book doesn't use that term, I think basically he's part of the CIA because there is a higher group monitoring the Southern Reach that he's reporting to that is called Central. He's assigned basically for two reasons to the Southern Reach: to try to determine what happened on the last expedition, which was Expedition 12, and also to kind of get the Southern Reach back on track. The government has lessened their funding. So they have less employees. There are morale issues. And on top of doing these things, he has the legacy of his mother as a very highly rated, highly ranked person at Central. So he has kind of that legacy to live up to, and his maternal grandfather was also part of them. I really enjoy this book. I will do a separate review. Haven't quite decided on the rating, but it will be like a 4.5, 4.75, very highly rated. As I said, it wasn't exactly what I expected after reading Annihilation, but I really liked it. And I'm looking forward to the third book. I kind of think maybe there's a fourth book. I'm not sure, but right now the cover of this says the Southern Reach trilogy. I went to the library this past week to return some books, and while there I looked around and borrowed some books. Every month I try to borrow 5-6 books. Their funding depends partly on the demand, so although I'm only one person, I do try to do my part. Ended up borrowing 5 books. The first book I borrowed was Cedar Cove, 50 Harbor Street by Debbie McComber. Mary of Book Buds is a big proponent of Debbie McComber. She talked about her on several occasions, and when I saw some of Debbie McComber's books in the library, I decided to borrow one. There was a whole bunch of them there. I don't know if this is the one I should be reading first because it says Cedar Cove. I think it's probably part of a series, but this is the one my eyes first alighted on, so I decided to borrow it. Another book I borrowed was Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. I really loved her Imogen, obviously, so I wanted to read another book by her. I think this book was made into either a movie or a series. I borrowed Skin by Izzy O'Boy. This is a book I had noticed in the YA section on a previous visit in the new book area, so I decided to borrow it. I borrowed The Gods Themselves by Isaac Asimov. As I've said in several videos, Isaac Asimov was my favorite author as a kid. Having recently reread and liked The Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury, liked that book a lot, I decided to revisit another author of my youth. I most remember him for his Foundation series and the robot books he did. He had some Laws of Robotics. I remember those. So I'm going to be interested. I'm not sure I read this book. I probably did. Regardless, I'm most interested to see if his writing still works for me. Finally, I borrowed A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. It's the third book in the ACOTAR series. I'm reading this book as part of the ACOTAR group, a group created and moderated by Elena Cobalt Dragon. I liked ACOTAR, and I loved A Court of Mist and Fury, so I'm hoping I like this book just as much, if not more, than those books. Now I want to talk about my reading plans for the upcoming week and a little beyond that. The first thing I want to do is complete Authority by Jeff Vandermeer. I don't have that much left to read in it. As I said in my last video, unlike my normal reading, this year I've been mostly concentrated on one book, and I concentrated mostly on this book in the past week. As I said, I completed Mate early in the week. When I'm done with that book, I want to continue on Beautiful Brutal Bodies by Linda Cheng. I had started it. After that, I want to read The Vampire Armand by Anne Rice. This is the 6th book in the Vampire Chronicles series. This is one of the two, December-January reads for Vampire Chronicles group, moderated by Elena Cobalt Dragon. In addition to me, there are 2 other participants. I will put their names in the description of this video. And after I complete The Vampire Armand, I want to read Merrick, which is the 7th book in the series. The discussion of those books, I think, is around the 21st of February. So I definitely want to have the books read by then. I don't believe I've read either of them before. One book I want to start fairly soon is Game Changer by Rachel Reid. It's the first book in what I think people probably refer to as the Heated Rivalry series. I've heard a lot about the Heated Rivalry show. I believe it's on HBO Max. Rose at Rose_Dreamer is a big advocate of the show and the books. Leslie at Bookers and Purrs has talked highly about the show. I can't remember specifically if she talked about the books, but I know she loves the show. Cindy at Reading with Cindy did a episode with her best friend. I can't think of his name, but they watched and talked about the first 4 episodes of the series. That was another thing that got me interested. It's just a really hot series and a hot show, and I decided I want to start in. I want to read at least the first 2 books before I watch the series at all. And the series is based upon the 2nd book, but I always like to start the series in order. So the first would be Game Changer. So hopefully maybe early in February I will start Game Changer. Yeah, I should say it's a hockey romance. It's kind of a forbidden romance because it's a romance between two men, and that's in the North American sports landscape, that's still a very taboo thing. I want to do a search and just see how many gay hockey players there have been. I think if there are, they came out after they retired. It is more common to see lesbian relationships among hockey players, although even there they do have to often conceal their true identities to some extent. So that's basically the things I want to read next. And actually the library books I showed you to a little longer. As I said, I do it more than anything for demand, but I would especially like to read the Isaac Asimov book. I'm really curious what I'll think about him as, say, 50 years after I read him before, 50, 55 years later. One thing I should say too is I was at one time a pretty big hockey fan. From the mid-70s to the late 90s, there was a National Hockey League team in Hartford called the Hartford Whalers. They left in 97. Haven't really followed it since. So I've never actually read a sports romance. If I read Game Changer, that would be the first. One thing I've always been curious about is if it is true to the sport. Because I do see people who like sports romances, and they read a lot of them. Generally, they'll say they don't follow the sport, so they wouldn't really be able to tell if it was true to the sport. Maybe I wouldn't either because it's been years since I followed hockey, but I'd be interested to see if that part of it kind of rings true to me. Now I'm just going to talk about the videos I released this week. First video I released was my 2025 Storygraph reading stats and my 2026 reading goals. Second was reading wrap-up for the 2 weeks ending 1/17/2026. The third is my review of The Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury. And the fourth is my review of When We Were Monsters by Jennifer Niven. It's been a while since I released 4 videos in a week. That's not my goal. My goal is actually 3, but it's great that I exceeded that. I fell short of that some recent weeks. And also, the videos haven't really been getting that many views, but I did gain a few subscribers, so thanks for anybody who subscribed. Most of the time I don't see who subscribed because they have their settings, so it doesn't let me know, but I did gain a few. If you're interested, I have 374 as of this moment. Next, I want to talk about the crochet projects I worked on. The first is Tiny Plastic Candy, Wooble. It is day 2 in the Wooble's Advent Calendar. I realize it's late January and I'm only on day 2, but it is what it is. I don't love these small ones. They're kind of hard for me to work on, but came out all right. And the second project I worked on is Puff Stitch Scarf. I did have a couple of misfires starting this one. I had to get special yarn for it. I had to get yarn for it. I hadn't gotten before, so I got it from an Etsy shop. Baby Afghan yarn. It is a little bit hard to work on at first. It's quite thin. Pretty sturdy, but quite thin. And with this one, what you have to do is you end up with seven loops on your hook, and you have to do yarn over and pull the loop you bring up then through all 7. And that can be a little tricky, but I kind of got the hang of it, and this is where I am right now. I think it's coming out pretty well. The holes are maybe a little bigger than I would like, but it's really not possible to do otherwise because I said with these 7 loops, you kind of have to allow them to be big enough to pull the eighth loop that you bring up through them. Going to be working on this a while. The book says to make it 6 feet long, which is a little less than 2 meters. But once I get going on one of these, it's almost kind of like therapeutic. Woobles are fun, but they're not necessarily, there's something that takes a lot of concentration because of the rounds get narrower and wider, and you have attaching parts, small parts and stuff. But once I get going on a project like this, it's kind of, I can kind of like, I do a row and turn and do another row and stuff. It's kind of relaxed. As far as video games, I continue to play Fantasy Life I, The Girl Who Steals Time. I made some good progress. I am thinking soon, though, I am going to start something else. I will still maybe dip into Fantasy Life I, but I've played about 108 hours, and I kind of am getting an itch to try something else. I also continue to play Sudoku. Still on an easy level, but it is, I think, good thing to exercise my brain. It's a numbers puzzle, but you see patterns. As kind of a math nerd, I love numbers, and I like to try to see patterns. So it's been enjoyable. I did play it years ago, but it's good to get back into it. Fantasy Life I, The Girl Who Steals Time, I'm playing on my Switch 2. Decided to get the Sudoku on Steam. I haven't used Steam very much. As far as music, I mainly listen to Tori Amos and Ashniko. I think it was on Tidal, that they showed the 30th anniversary edition of Tori Amos Boys. I think it's Boys for Pele, is the name of it. And Tori Amos was a person I listened to a lot a while back. Saw about 10 of her concerts. I've kind of drifted away. I think it might be cool to listen to her music again, so I was listening to Boys for Pele, and it didn't disappoint. Liked it on even after a big passage of time. As far as other things I've done, there has been a little bit of precipitation, snow here, so stayed home I think one day, or I think a couple days. Actually, as I record this, it's the day after we had a pretty big storm. I'll talk about that in my next weekly wrap-up. But I went to the local mall, walked, got something to eat, went out to some restaurants, met up with my friend on a Thursday brunch, which we try to do when one of us isn't otherwise has some appointment or something. Watched a lot of YouTube videos, mainly booktubers, but I haven't mentioned this, I have kind of slipped down a rabbit hole a little bit. Started watching some Dead Mall videos. I love malls, so it's kind of a strange thing for me to watch Dead Mall videos, but started watching Dead Mall videos. Dead malls aren't malls that are actually shut, but they're kind of terminal. So I watched some of those, and that led to watching some videos about what it was like in the times that I grew up, like the 70s. So I've been watching a few of those. So nostalgic. I'm not normally all that nostalgic, but watching these videos made it so. They do look through things with rose-colored glasses, but one of the things they point out, which I have to agree with, it is good. It was kind of good to grow up at a time when there wasn't an internet. We didn't have phones at our disposal. There was benefits to that. Negatives too. If your car broke down, then it's a lot more difficult than now when you just call someone. But still, it is an interesting trip down memory lane. I say it's like imply maybe I shouldn't be doing it because watching those videos takes away from watching booktube videos, and I want that to remain my focus. The problem with me is it's very easy for me to just click on something and go there. And YouTube loves people like me because once they get a sniff that I like something, well, that's not just me, it's all of us, but their algorithm starts sending me a bunch more. They start showing up in my views and in my main page when I look at it. So nobody forces me, but they see people like me coming. I would be interested in knowing the books you're reading, book or books, what you think of them. Music you're listening to too, I'm interested in hearing that. If you'd like to let me know these things, please add a comment. If there's nothing else you'd like to comment, please add an emoji. I suggest a snowflake emoji because, as I said, I'll talk about in the next video, but had a lot of snow. There's about a foot of it on the ground now. Not that much compared to a lot of people. This nasty storm that's hit about half the country, but a snowflake emoji or a emoji of your choice. I hope you have a wonderful reading week. I hope you have a wonderful week in general. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, please subscribe, please hit the bell to get notified when I upload future videos.